Well, ladies and gentlemen, absolute pleasure to have Brenna van Hoogenstyn on the podcast today. Brenna's going to be taking us through the content journey. Now, we've had Cathy. Cathy Clark is her partner, also her mum, and they run Harcourts Blue Water. It's an office within our network out of Newport Beach. I'm going to make sure that all their links and everything are below so that you can follow them on social media, because that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the content journey. And the reason I want to talk about this with Brenna is because they are easily one of the best on social media that I see, not only from a internal in our network perspective, but also within real estate. They've really taken this to heart in order to try and find the actual target audience, but know that in essence is doing social media is something that is in the peripheral. It's not where most of the leads are going to come from for now until they build it a little bit more by design. We start to talk about the content journey because they're really focused at the moment about providing value to their listeners versus ego about telling people how good they are. And I think that if you were to watch what they've done on social media and you look at their progression of their journey on their social media, it is a great way to understand the content that Brenna's going to go through today. But it's also stuff that, again, they're coming up with on such a regular basis by partnering with industry professionals. Again, great episode. Brenna and I go right into the details of all the thought process, how to stay consistent, how to do this, how to hire a company, how to do a little bit of it on your own. What type of content are they doing in order to target what type of audience? And even if that audience isn't being captured, why they would still keep doing it. And again, there's so much more of this. It's really, really good and a vulnerable episode of talking about all the difficulties that come along with it. So again, I thank Brenna and Cathy for being open about it all, but hope you enjoy. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, the very one and only.
Like, where are we going?
Brenna. Now, I'm going to say your last name, Van Hoogenstyn. Van Hoogenstyn.
Yeah, good job.
Right. Now, what have you been called? I'm talking about last name.
People don't really get creative with it. I think it intimidates them. So they just like botch the pronunciation, and that's about as good as it gets. So Brenna Van, that's about it.
Yeah, right. See, I get like Grady, I get all these weird things because when I say it with an accent, obviously they think it's all something weird. How are you doing, Brenna? Tell me.
I'm doing well. Everything is good. I'm having such a full Harcourts week this week. It's very fun.
Yeah. I'll see you tomorrow at the races.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be great. How are you doing?
So, yeah, good. Well, again, the audience has probably either figured it out by now or not, but I had a hair transplant, which you're aware of, and I didn't know
the races talking about it so much.
Oh no, I know. I'm constantly everything has to come back to me, Brenna.
Yes, I know. Okay? I've learned that.
Okay. Thank you. So right now, because we're going to the races tomorrow, is that I've got to go because we're dressing up. I've got to go get a hat.
Stop.
Because I can't be in the sun.
Well, look at it this way, Ben. If you get a top hat, you'll appear taller.
Oh. So we're at the baseball, everybody. If you we'll get into the content here shortly, but with the baseball the other night, Brenna and Cathy and a whole bunch of us went to the baseball, watched the Anaheim. What are they? I don't know.
Angels.
And then the Angels. Well, it doesn't matter. Who cares? And I'm like, these seats are shit. Like I can't see anything. Brenna's like, stand up. It's a short joke. Fucking bitch. Anyway,
you're welcome.
We've got it on the record, folks, that I am insulting Brenna verbally on right now. Okay,
but it's a mutual thing. It's what we do, and that's why we have such a friendship. It's fantastic.
There we go. You
can take it.
Well, let's talk about the journey of what we're actually here to talk about, which is your content, because obviously it's you and your mum that are a real estate team based out of Newport Beach in California. And again, one of the cool things, and from those that have listened to the podcast for a long time, they would have seen the interview that you and your mum did on the podcast, which was great. They know the journey of which ultimately you guys starting off your mum as an agent with us, and then you joined, and then one of the offices, and then progressed into the top part of the group, and then into your own office. And part of that journey has been the social media side of things. And again, I would go as far as to say that you guys are an absolute number one within the entire network, and probably you'd be close to the top 10 that I see on my Instagram for real estate in general. Like again, from a volume of content and from the variety of content that you guys are putting out, it's exceptional.
Thank you.
You know, a close second to that is probably Alex and Deanna, but the problem is that it's too sporadic and it's really just about the real estate side of it and whatever it is. And you guys have gone down the path of really giving yourself a deeper and better exposure within the social media network because, and again, I'll get to the real point in all of this shortly because we want to start at the very beginning of your social media journey. I want to go all the way through because I want to understand how you guys started, why you started from a content perspective. Then I want to bridge all the way through, Brenna, and I want to get to the end part of this of what would you done differently today if you were starting today. So let's just talk about where you started and why you saw social media as an avenue.
Well, I didn't know much, like even getting this setup done today, I'm sitting here kind of like, if this was a couple years ago, I wouldn't even know where to start. So it's been a long journey, obviously, but the goal was really, I mean, I started in the business cold calling and then got into networking later. And majority of our business was coming from networking at that point, but it was always ingrained in me that you need to differentiate when it comes to where your business comes from. So this to me felt like I'm creative. I always have loved taking photos. And it was just kind of this thing where I thought, well, if I can take some of this energy I have for the business into an avenue where I don't have to cold call, but I can also expose myself to more people, I think I might as well give it a try. And so that's kind of where it started. And then it was just sort of step by step, brick by brick from there. We had no idea that this is where we were going. We had no idea what it would look like immediately. It was just sort of like, let's give it a try.
Okay. And then I guess that give me an understanding of like, has it been something that you've consistently always done, or did you guys drop off for a while, then come back and then drop off and come back? And like, give me an understanding of the thought process when going through those lull periods, because that's something that every single person goes through. That's, one of the worst parts about social media is that everybody knows when you start and everybody knows when you're not consistent.
Yep. It's very obvious. And the algorithm knows too. And it definitely punishes you, which is actually something I'm going through right now. Like my views are really down and it's because I've been inconsistent with posting, or at least have been over the last 6 months, which again, we all know what that's like. The pipeline gets really full. We have a business to run and these things can fall by the wayside. But I would say one of the biggest obstacles to being a consistent content creator would be knowing what to post and that creative aspect that comes with. Most of the time, I think where people struggle is they're just searching for something to grab onto of like, this is what I can post. We don't know what to post. Instead of reverse engineering it from what audience do I want to reach? What are the content kind of pillars that I can create to bring value to those people? And then how do I work backwards to what videos do I need to put out every day to reach those people? So that can be sort of the stopping point for people. It's too overwhelming. It's too big of an undertaking. So they'll have some ideas. They'll do some listing videos. They'll do a couple of things here and there. And then either they get busy with their business or they think, I don't know what the hell to post next. And they just stop. Or it's something, it's marketing. Real estate agents, when they get into a bad market, the first thing they ditch is marketing. The last thing agents want to spend money on is something that isn't going to bring them immediate lead conversion. So investing in social media consistently, even when things are down for your business, isn't always easy either.
So let's divert for a second and let's talk about how, for somebody like at the end of the day, I know that your mum and yourself are very measured in the sense that I got a lead from a referral based on being in the provisors group and they called me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. How is it that you can constantly remind yourself of something that is in the background that, and again, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, like I would go as far as to say, like, have you had anyone directly reach out to you, say, I want to list my home or buy a property through social? Is that right?
Yes.
Great. How many leads have you got, do you think?
Like in terms of cold leads, people that found us on Instagram, probably a handful.
So a handful of people have come from Instagram. And, the part of that is interesting to me is that so many people are like, well, what's my ROI? What's my return on investment? I think that's such a bullshit statement when it comes to social media, because how many people have actually been told your name by a referral client and then Googled you guys, and then all your videos have come up to show the volume of credibility? Like, I just think it's something that you can't measure. It's just got to be there.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts around that? Like, do you agree? And second, how did you know that from the beginning?
I completely agree with you, because the beautiful thing about social media is you have no idea the kind of impressions you're making until the person finally reaches out. It's just like the way we were taught with cold calling. It's going to be an average of 30 touches before you actually convert. This is, in a sense, someone is watching and waiting. This is your online portfolio. So whether it's a lead that's been referred by a trusted resource, or it's someone who's been silently following you without engaging, that is most of the time how it happens. Is they don't engage, they're ready. You're my person. I already trust you. There's a warmth there, and it's not a fight for the deal. It's just, you're who I choose. But
yeah, and it's like they know you, right? If they've seen your content, it's like they know you.
Yep. But at the same time, that is dependent upon the content you're posting.
Okay.
So if you're
Let's talk. Well, okay, go, girl, go. Go. Like, let's talk about
if the content you're posting is, I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people take off and all they're posting is, like Ricky Lee. I think you probably follow him. He does like green screen videos of news in the area, and that is all he does. However, you're not getting to know the person when your content is so specific to information, and maybe news or whatever the case may be. So that is what has sort of informed our approach, has been, let's demonstrate an immense amount of knowledge and experience, but let's also show who we are as people, so that by the time someone's ready to engage with us, there's not a get to know you trial period or an interview process. It's, you're my person. But I want to go back for a second, because you mentioned something about return on investment and people spending years doing this. One of the differentiators that I've seen over and over again is between agents who are posting, or anyone who's posting to provide value, and someone who's posting to stroke their ego. So much of our content in the beginning was, look at me, look at what I'm doing. And it was to make me feel better about the business I was doing, right? No one gives a shit about you just sold.
Preach.
No one cares. And so if if that's all you're posting, even if it's video content, even if it's eye-catching and entertaining, you can gain followers probably from other agents who want to be doing what you're doing, but it's not, the conversion won't be there. So I think that's a really valuable check-in to do with yourself is my content shareable? Is someone entertained by this? Are they getting information that they need, or is this just about me?
Okay, so let's talk about this for a second, because there's a couple of things that I really want to get to here in this portion of it. Let's talk about some of your best videos that you've had from that are a reachable video. What are those?
They're entertaining.
Okay, give me an idea of what they are, though. Like, give me a specific example.
Cathy hits. Like, people love Cathy. And
okay, so this is you're going forward to the next question I had, is that I've got to be very careful, because I know she's in the office and she can hear me.
She's not. She's gone, actually. So
thank God. Yes. Okay. All right. Good. No, but Cathy is much older than you, and technology is
no, she was 13 when she had me, by the way. So. Yeah,
whoa. Wait,
no, I'm kidding. She's just not that much older than me. I'm keeping you out of trouble.
Thank you. Okay, good. No, but like Cathy is actually somebody that ultimately is one that would get in there and try to figure something out from a technology perspective, versus those that are like, no, I don't want to do that. But Cathy is obviously not at the age group that you would expect from a social media perspective. Like, did you have to drag her along in the beginning to this?
I didn't have to drag her, because she was like, run with this. I'm here to support you, whatever you need. And our brand needs to be unified. So I've got to be in this, whether I like what I see or not, and whether I'm comfortable or not. So she had that perspective from the beginning, and I'll give her credit for that. But she hates it to this day, hates content days, doesn't want to do it. And is so patient, because I've recognized like the analytics, like the best performing videos are her out of her comfort zone. People can kind of tell she doesn't want to be here, doesn't want to be doing this, and they eat it up. And I think I see this all over the place with other real estate agents. When they're mature and it clearly isn't something that comes naturally to them, if they have, it's sort of this like, I have a Gen Z editor who's making me do all this stuff, like those perform so well because it's humanizing. They're out of their element and people love to see it. So yeah, she was always our best performing videos without a doubt.
So that's so it's because it's so raw, I guess, is the way that it is, because, you know, at the end of the day, Cathy is not backwards in coming forward. She would tell you if she didn't want to do something. But where I'm going here is that this is probably one of the more significant expenses within your business now, though, Brenna.
To an extent, yeah.
To an extent. What are we talking here? Are we talking 20? Like, now again, you guys are pretty significant in the volume of real estate that you do. So, but are we talking 20% of your business, 10% of your business income? What are you guys spending?
No. Setup wise, like to buy a camera, to buy a couple of these things, couple grand. We pay $2,500 a month, and we do 2 content shoots a month. Sometimes those are listing content shoots. Sometimes those are just here at the office creating other reels. And that also includes editing hours for our YouTube. So I record YouTube on my own.
That is inexpensive.
It's minimal. Like this is, and I'm paying more. Like, don't get me wrong. I get a great deal with my media team, but there are some people who have tens, 20, 30,000 followers, and they're doing it all on their iPhone with some lighting. Like there's no excuse whatsoever for the cost to be the reason you're not producing content.
Now, from an ideas perspective, is that something that is a joint effort between your content person that you guys employ in that $2,500 budget and you guys, or are you coming up with it? How is that content plan coming together?
Well, this is where me being who I am is a problem because, well, it's makes things difficult because my media team will give me ideas and they'll work
Finish that. I'm really
a stickler about what I like and what I don't. For a while, I was kind of copying other people's funny ideas. And I got to a point where I said, this is not, number one, the clientele we want to attract. Like, I don't want my audience to be other agents. I want my audience to be buyers and sellers in this price point. So, but yeah, I am pretty much coming up with a majority of it. And so that piece is the most time consuming. We've created platforms we're going to be moving towards, which allow us to platform other professionals to give us great information for our audience.
So they're like groups that you join or something like that, like content groups or something?
No, not necessarily. We work with, like, most of our business comes from other professionals, estate litigators, trust attorneys, divorce attorneys, fiduciaries. So we're going to be doing interviews with those people about what people need to know about different phases of life. This is what's going on.
That's really interesting how you've then moved it from a value add, like coming back to the point that you made before that I think is a very big thing that we need to double click on here is that you guys have gone into that value add perspective. So having people like financial planners, having estate litigators, having all of those people, because if you were to look at your business as a whole, is that like it is a pure shining example of how networking can build a business. I think that's part of this is that you guys. You started off with the cold calling and a couple of the home runs that you guys got in that perspective to put runs on the board came from that. And then the networking that then you and your mum both doubled down into is just vast. Like if there's anybody that we ever need, it's always call Cathy and Brenna. Their network is gigantic. So then bringing that into then that social media avenue to then provide value to people, that is what we're talking about here. Yep. Because I don't think that just doing listing videos hits, there's got to be so much more value to it, right?
Yep. Well, and that goes back to what I said earlier about determining your client avatar is what we call it. So for us, I started to create content. I thought, okay, I need less entertainment, more shareable, valuable content. So then what was easily reachable from there was content for first-time buyers. It's easy to educate people who don't know anything about the process, right? So I jumped to there and then I thought to myself, this isn't who we want. We're happy to have those referrals for people that trust us, but this is not who we should be aiming to speak to. So then I took it from, okay, great. I want these people in this price point. These people are more sophisticated. They have bought and sold a home before. So those people need content that's more about, this is something you didn't know about a trust you need to be aware of. So that's kind of, what the journey has been for us. And so that's why I said, like, figure out who you're speaking to before you figure out what content you're posting. Because I was speaking to the wrong people.
So let's go back and rewind to the perspective of your audience, because this was a conversation that you and I were meant to have last week, but we haven't. But we're going to use the podcast to do it.
Perfect.
So great. Is that what audience at the moment do you think you're targeting versus who do you want to target?
I believe we are targeting right now agents in other places, and which you could utilize for referral network. That maybe that's not our goal. And then first time buyers, people who are getting into either coming to Orange County or trying to get into the market and don't quite know how or feel like they're excluded from it. That is really what we've geared towards so far.
Can I ask, before we go to the I wanted, do you think it's because of the platforms that you're ultimately on? Because if we think about Instagram, that is more of a younger platform. It's definitely older than, say, TikTok is. But Facebook is more of the audience of the older generation, or I'd say 50 plus, would be more on the Facebook side.
I do agree with you in terms of audience age range.
Okay.
But my goal is I need people who use these platforms as a search engine. And there are 30 to 50-year-olds who will see a video, think, oh, that's valuable. I'm going to save it. I'm going to follow that person. And then you're everywhere. That's a running ad for you, right? So I think
100%.
In terms of a search engine, people in that age range or demographic aren't going to Facebook as a search engine, but the people who are on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok are using it as a search engine, right?
I wanted to bring that up with you. YouTube. Yep. Obviously, you're building your channel with the same content that
ultimately. Very aware of that.
Yeah, I'm very aware of that. So just so you know, is I'm in the habit right now. I've actually stopped doing it because it's actually real creepy and weird. Is that I send Brenna a photo every time she comes up on YouTube on my TV, because I look at my YouTube, because that's another thing that I just want to make sure that we express here from a content-driven side, is that obviously YouTube's where we are at the moment. If you're watching us or you might be listening to us on a podcast channel, is that we're segueing. YouTube really is only about, I'm going to say, like 5% of our audience that we get. It's still more podcast based. Yep. However, the one thing I will say when it comes to YouTube is it's so funny with the hits that we're getting on YouTube that more than 50% of them are coming from a YouTube app on a TV, not on a computer or a phone, which is bizarre, right? I never watched YouTube on my TV until someone said that to me. I'm like, oh, what?
This still blows my mind because there was this weird cutoff in my generation. I have friends of mine, same age as me, maybe 1 or 2 years younger, who spent their childhood on YouTube and not watching like cable. Like that was there. And I was like, I wasn't doing that.
No.
But that is very common for anyone younger than me, I guess, is that YouTube is like, instead of turning on Netflix, they'll go to YouTube and they'll just scroll and just like, I don't get it. I think I have too short of an attention span for that. I need I'm a goldfish, but it's very common. So the experience that you're having is what everyone else will have as well. But I just think, you're engaged with auction. That's what our videos are. That's why they're coming up. We are very new in the YouTube space, and we've got to post a certain amount of videos before we'll really get pushed out there and get traction. So that's new for us.
I do think that is the avenue for you guys for the new part. If we were talking about monetizing your business, I think you already do that through your referrals, and then ultimately the confidence you can give them with the content that ultimately then you have.
Yep.
But then the real monetization, I think, comes from YouTube in the sense, and I think that you guys have discovered that even further with the conference that you went to recently, and that's where a great deal of more of that happens. But the audience that you think you're targeting at the moment, the new home buyers and more real estate agents, it's such a really great understanding, to understand that the real estate agents are not your audience. They might like it and you might get a little bit of an ego boost, but sure, and maybe your referral network gets bigger, but no, I don't believe that's the case.
Yeah.
But segueing across to who you want to target, so that avatar, let's talk about who is the ideal avatar and who is the ideal person. And then how do we change the content in order to suit them? So who is that person that you think that you need to target?
For us, it's buyers and sellers anywhere from the 2 million to 3 million range. We can go above that. We're happy to have that, but that's that's what we're gearing towards. So that generally means someone in their 30s in my age range who is sophisticated, has a career, and probably understands more about the real estate market and buying and selling real estate than the person who is trying to figure out how to buy their first starter condo, right?
Yep.
So it lends itself to the price point as well as the mindset, because as much as we are white glove service and hand holding each individual person, regardless of what phase they're in, what price point they're buying in, our real strong suit is in the strategy and in moving the puzzle pieces around. You need these 3 resources. You want to get from here to here. How do we do that in the best possible way while making your net what you want it to be, so on and so forth. So that's our strong suit to begin with. That's why we should be speaking to those people who need.
And I think that's one of the things that I just want to make sure that people understand here is that there is, you can definitely get on and do content. There's no question you can, and you can target it to an audience. But I think that what Cathy and Brenna, or what you both are doing, is that you guys, you're really building content. And this is how I would see it, Brenna, again, is this would be the conversation you and I would have over the phone, or were meant to have last week, is that the way I see it is the promotion of your structured service is why I will come to you, because ultimately you have an estate planner, you have a tax planner, you have all these different resources that have been vetted through the community, that are tied into the network, that are very experienced locally, that are all of the different things. And I think that is where your power of your content comes from. And I want to make sure people understand this, is that I think they need to work on their network of offering all of those different services in order to actually then target that community. Because you're right, if I saw you on a video talking about the factor that, like, a great example, like, and let's not take away from this either, is that, like, right now I'm right in the midst of, I really hate my front yard of my house, and I'm toying with and Brenna, you know where I live, is that all these little exploring things that we've just recently done. I'm thinking about, instead of doing any remodeling to a house, what Calista and I are thinking about knocking it down and building something. So then that actually led us to then going through and understanding, do you know, directly across the street of Santa Ana is that is R2, I think it is, and we're R1. So we can do 2 stories if we're across the road, okay, and a certain square footage, but we can't do that if we're over here. And that really means that I can't go over the normal square footage, blah, 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 blah. So if you were talking about those different parts of a different area and you were on a video for me, I'd be like, huh? What do you mean? Like, oh, okay. Like, and that shows, like, there's a depth of that service, and not only you're that person that can help me through that process of selling it as well.
Absolutely. I think using the page, because ultimately, if you really think about, if someone goes to your Instagram page, it is a portfolio. And you always talked about this in my early years. It was like, what is your offering? What is your value proposition? If you're not ready to give a listing presentation and you know it beginning to end, you're not going to be vying for the yeses, right? So there has to be an offering that's strong enough that you can create content around that offering that's actually appealing to people. If you're just doing what any other agent does, which is like, give me your listing and I'll put it on open house for 4 hours a weekend and I'll not call people back. Like, what are you talking about on your page? So I do think there's value in starting with what makes me different. You know, what can I bring to the client that someone else can't, which in real estate is like not that hard to like rise above the general offering of our industry. Sorry. So
no, but you're 100%
figure that
right,
out
though.
first, and then create content around it.
Well, let's segue to this for a second, because you guys build content around auctions sometimes. It's a sometimes thing where, you know, most people would double down and just do that. Like, at the end of the day, you're seeing auction as one, like let's be honest, out of the business that you guys do, I would go as far as to say like 15% of it is auction. Like, it's barely even on the radar in that sense, which is fine. I honestly is, because it is
more
another
than that, but yes,
whatever. I'm trying to make a point here. Shut up. Okay. Is that like, at the end of the day, though, but you're building content around something that is different that people don't hear about. And that's the other part about this, is that some of the people that you guys have told me about that have spoken at the stuff that you guys do in your networking circle is like, I'm like, that sounds amazing. I need to have them on the podcast. And by the way, I want to hear about that. You know, like and again, I don't want to do any spoiler alerts, because at the end of the day, there's just so much stuff that you can do, but it has to be useful to the individual. Like there was one guy the other day that that had this thing on about how to do what was it, family office, like from
Mhm.
an investment perspective. And he was a
Yep.
financial planner, but he had a tax advisor on to talk about how to build a family office and how to pay less tax and whatever. I'm like, oh my
Yep.
God, this is so nerdy, but I'm in it. Like I'm
But
into
you're
that.
into
Like,
it.
yeah,
Yeah. And I was just talking about this with someone this morning. Like we're in a world where people want to dig into the deeper bits of information. Like they want all of it, but they want it in a way that looks nice and that's somewhat entertaining and that's easily presented to them on a platter. They don't want to go to the library and get a book to figure it out. They want you to tell them and they want you to dig into it. So even if you're not hitting the masses and 90% of people scroll past it, you just need the one person who that pertains to at that given time.
yeah, yeah. I think
So
that's it. So okay, I want to make sure that we tie this up into a pretty nice bow towards the final part of this podcast, because the part of this that I really wanted to do is draw attention to the factor of what you guys are doing. And the thing about that is that I've got to be honest, is that you've told me the $2,500 budget that you get. Now, don't get me wrong, you've been with your company for a long time, and that is a very, very good deal for what you guys get.
yeah.
But if everyone dives back in and goes to your channels and follows you and looks at what you've done, I have the perception even still now, that's why I still didn't believe that you guys were only spending that amount of money, because 2 content days a month, there is also the quality of what you guys are putting out there is just second to none.
Thank you.
And it is only coming up with that budget is really important, in the sense that people need to know that is the quality that you can get out there for a marginal cost. Now, that being said, putting on that company, finding that company, did you find them or did you have others before them? Like, give me an understanding of the process that you went through for that whole thing.
Yeah, that was a lot of trial and error. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I'm not a marketing expert. I'm a real estate agent. I mean, I guess these are the same thing, but it really was trying one videographer and then being confused as to why I wasn't being offered, more help in these other areas, creating the content, creating the scripts, creating the ideas, paying obscene amounts of money for videos. So it was a lot of jumping around. I started with who was my real estate photographer. He said he would, do it for relatively cheap to do videos. So I'm like, sure, let's try that. It was just throwing stuff at the wall. And so getting to the media group I use now, they reached out to me. They saw my page. They've done this with most of their clients in the area. And it started with, I coached with them for like a month and I just said, I'm going to pay you this amount. Tell me what I need to change. Tell me what I need to do, while I vetted them. Because at that point it was, I don't trust anyone who's doing this, because I don't know what I don't know. And every single time I've thought this is the answer, it's been a huge fail. So it might be some of that, and be prepared for that. But
and that's, so you made a point there before that I think that people need to be conscious of, like, that I didn't even think of. Going to your real estate photographer that has a camera, just because you know who they are and you've got a relationship with them, because that's one thing I think that a few people would probably not like to do if they're not good in front of a camera, or they're feeling a little vulnerable about getting out there and doing content. They probably don't want to go to a complete stranger and actually have them video them or make them ideas or whatever it is. So it's probably going outside of that comfort zone as well, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, there are tons of ways you can do it with just a list of gear you buy on Amazon, where you can do it and mess up and flub the words, like in the privacy of your own office or your own home for a while, until you get comfortable enough to try it with someone else and hire someone. But you're never, I mean, you're going to get really lucky if the first group you try to work with answers all your questions and does exactly what you need them to do. So you're right. It's an investment. You're going to have to spend some money. But in my opinion, it's no more money than most real estate agents spend on leads that never end up converting. Like, it's just, it's another arm that you can give a try to, and it's within your control, as opposed to handing someone a lump sum of money and saying, hopefully they'll make me some money, make me some connections. So
I think, and the part of this, like, well, actually, direct question is, do you think that you would still be doing content if you hadn't employed a company?
Yes, simply because of who I am. And I'm like, this thing is not going to take me, like, I'm not going to have spent all this time and money for it to not make me money. So I think, just from like a perseverance standpoint, I would still be doing it. But I cannot imagine if I didn't have a partner, if I didn't have someone else bringing in leads at the time where I was mostly focused on something that wasn't bringing in leads, like, yeah, I can imagine it being hard to stick with.
So, Brenna, you've got a good sense of humor. So I laugh about that. It's a weird question. Sounds weird the second time, doesn't it?
I know.
Is that there's a lot of people that don't, and you put a really good like casual element to yours. I still think that it's hilarious. Like some of the ones that you do in your car and
Yeah.
like, and I'm like, I know Brenna, and I still laugh at them.
Yeah.
Is that there's a part of that though that like for somebody that doesn't have that but
Yeah.
still wants to do content, do you have any advice for them?
Absolutely. Do not like lean into what you're good at and what you know your strength is, because the inauthenticity, like people, especially today, people can sniff it a mile away. It's not the way that things used to be. So I would figure out what you're passionate about, what you like. Cathy's videos, like she likes to do the ones where she shares information and she's like, I just heard about this really cool thing from this professional and this is what you need to know. Like she eats that up and she loves it. If it were just her doing content, I would say do that all day long.
All day, yeah.
So yeah, do what you're good at. Don't try to force yourself. Obviously, you have to be vulnerable and you have to start shooting videos if that makes you uncomfortable. But like, don't do what doesn't naturally come to you. Figure out what your kind of superpower is and lean into that.
Okay, that's good advice, because like the other part about that as well, if you think about the audience that you guys are trying to target, because I want to come back to that a little bit before we sort of close out a few things. And I'm just going to prepare you for this, is that I'm going to ask you, like, if we were going straight into it today, you're starting from scratch, how would you do it differently, the way the journey's been? But
Okay.
I'm really interested, like with the target audience, like, how do you cater for them? It's just about the content, is it? Like, I know that it's kind of a stupid and basic question. I should have kind of picked it up immediately from like you saying that's your audience, that you cater towards them. But how do you know you're hitting that audience when you can't really get the metrics? Like, I know that it's okay to say that it's inbound, or well, if one of them reaches out to you, but this is not something. I don't think that you should ever expect to make a single dollar out of social media for something coming to you directly. I just think it just needs to be there from a portfolio perspective.
Absolutely.
But how do you know it's working? That's kind of my question to that audience.
Well, when you know it's working is when you're getting inbound leads from these people. So that's the only proof we're going to have.
Okay.
Now, when I think about how to get there, what I would suggest doing is if you're interacting with the people, like if you already have this type of audience that's who you typically work with, you just get the leads elsewhere. Pay attention to the questions that those people ask. Right. Answer those questions in your videos, or ask people who. Pay attention. Yeah, just pay attention to what those people that you're interacting with need to know, have issues with, problems they need solved, and then filter that into your content.
That is such a great answer. Like if you think about like let's talk. No, but like seriously, it's just got my head just spinning for a minute. Is that let's talk about like what was the last listing that you guys closed on one the other day for, what was it? 2 point, I don't know. Cathy told me about it. What was the address?
St. Clemente.
Yes, yeah. How much was it? It was 2.5. 2.5. So what were the questions that those sellers asked you? Like, again, if you think about that.
You know what? That's a really great question. They're overwhelmed in the process. Like they were, and this, again, I tried to do a bit of a video on this. Like they were in that house, raised their kids there, spent all this time there, and then had to move out within a couple of weeks and get their long-term home show ready for market. And it was a hugely time-consuming, stressful, overwhelming process. And I noticed throughout the thing, what helped her was me writing out, this is what's happening now, this is what's happening now, this is what's happening now. So we made a video on, hey, say you want to list your house. This is the exact timeline. This is exactly what we'll do to help you. This is what we're going to provide you. These are the solutions to your issue during that process. And that's geared towards someone who has lived in a home for 30 years and is hugely overwhelmed by the idea of cleaning it out and putting it on the market.
See, there's just so many massive snippets in all of that then you could look at, is that like, hey, here's this, that, and the other, because then you can even use your channel for the people that you list as well to then go, hey, here's a quick video on what to expect next and so on and so forth. Like Absolutely. It becomes that.
Well, and you can do that by telling stories as well. So if you tell a story, like I have a video pinned to the top of my profile about an auction result because people were sending it to people saying, hey, my friend is sitting on the market too. I'm going to send this to them. They need this solution, right? So telling a story that someone can relate to is like the easiest way to sell them on your services.
Can I ask your feedback on something, speaking directly to your audience, like in the sense of that it's like, hey, do you have a friend that's on the market for a period of time? Send them this video. Like, how do you feel about that? Or is that too hardcore?
I mean, honestly, no. If you're not, it kind of depends on the delivery, like your tonality, but I believe that people need
send
to
this to your friend now.
Or else. No, people will ignore stuff. Like at the end of a video, a call to action, like it sounds cheesy to be like and follow for more, but sometimes people need to be told to follow. Like, you know what I mean? You kind of got to do it. So get comfortable with putting a call to action in there or telling people what to do with this information.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that I kind of don't do on the podcast here. You forget to do it, but like it's one of those things that, hey guys, I don't know if any of this content helps you, and the only way that I can know that is by you subscribing and liking something. So that please, can you do that? But then, and it feels a little gimmicky, but ultimately I think that that's fair.
Everyone does it. You don't notice it when someone else does it.
That's right. But there was one more question I have before I get into how would you do things differently, is that how do you feel about asking your clientele now or your network to go, guys, can you jump on my YouTube and genuinely give me some feedback on the content that we're giving? Now, again, like I'd love to know if you think that it looks good, but also the actual topics that we're doing. Like, how do you feel about that for peers, and also finding like sellers like the one you just sold for $2.5 million in San Clemente? Could you do that for me? Like is that good, or what do you think?
No, I think it's valuable. I think the only drawback with that is that people, unless you are going to specific people, like they're just going to be nice and they're just going to like fluff your feathers. You know, they're not going to give that honest feedback. Yeah. So I do think it's valuable to go to someone that will be honest and you value their opinion. If they're not really involved in social media or the internet much and you're asking them, I don't know that it would be as valuable. But then again, if it's your clientele, then maybe it would. So just make sure someone's going to be honest is all I'm saying.
It's good. That's a good point. But leading to the question that I'm trying to get to round this out, because this is way longer than our normal episodes, because I think that it's important, because this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and you guys have really gone through the journey. How would you let's say you're starting out today, knowing what you know now, how would you do it? And again, it's a basic question, but I believe that it's the most important question.
Yeah. I would take the ego out of it. Like, so much of our early content was about me trying to feel good about our business. It was, look at me, look at what I'm doing. I promise I produce, just trust me. And it wasn't about the client. It wasn't about what value we could bring. And so I think our trajectory, our timeline would have been a lot shorter to where we're at now if we had focused on who we're serving instead of how good it feels when we get likes and when we get views.
Do you think that's an age thing?
I think it was for me. I think there are tons of people who are 45 years old and are on there for ego as well. But I do think for me at that point in my business, I really wanted to feel like we were performing, and I really wanted to feel like that I was contributing to that. Right. And so that was a me thing. It's part of like cold calls. I moved out of that and I was kind of like, where do I stand now in terms of my contribution? I think that factored into it. So our journey would have been a lot different if I had that awareness and made the change.
Do you know what's funny? Is the funny part about that is that it's kind of like the situation that I had with Soma, the really big listing that we did for $45 million. The interesting part about that is that the decision maker within that process, a gentleman by the name of Jerry, he started grilling me about this price point and being like, well, you guys have done nothing at this price point. I'm like, can you find me more than 10 people that you know that have sold a property that maybe would be above $10 million?
Yep.
And he goes, that's a really good point. It's like, I'm going to be vulnerable with you for a moment. I haven't done anything anywhere near this amount of money. Now, don't get me wrong. Collectively, I probably sold more real estate than anyone that you'll ever meet. And that's not to impress you. It's to impress on you that I can do this. But to be vulnerable with you for a moment, and the fact is that this is rarefied air and nobody knows what it's like here.
Yep.
And he said, and he's like, yeah, you're right. And all of those agents that we have spoken to that ever have done this, they're too difficult to deal with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. It's, I think leaning into that is huge. And I think even if as it relates to social media, even if you were to lean in and say, yeah, I'm doing my best. I'm going to try to bring you guys value, and this is uncomfortable for me. Like, even just sharing, you always used to say hiding out in the open when it came to auction and talking to sellers. Like, that is such a huge point of impact for someone. Is if you can, we're working on this with Cathy with a series she's going to talk about of like really vulnerable stuff that obviously we've got to, it's a fine line. Don't overshare, but you want to make yourself known to someone. And that endears people to you if they can kind of share in that vulnerability, whatever you're going through, whatever the journey's been. So yeah, I think that relates back. If I had taken down the ego and shared a little bit more about who I was at the time, as well as provided value, I think it would have been a different journey.
Do you know there's a part of this as well, and this is way off topic a little, but like it could be a great video. And again, you may have even thought about this already, is that I think I said this to Rach the other day. We were talking about something. I'm like, do you know what's really interesting is that we are probably, how many people have stood in your bedroom, your personal bedroom, right, that are complete strangers that you've never met before? Like personal bedroom, like that. You think about that. It's a pretty personal thing. You walking into my bedroom where I spend my night asleep and where I'm probably the most vulnerable.
At your most vulnerable. Yep.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And your realtor that I've never met, I'm going to invite you into my bedroom, into my closet, into my bathroom.
And who, as an industry, we are relatively mistrusted. So bizarre. It is, you're right. It's such an interesting, that is pretty bizarre. I've never thought about it like that. Yeah. I've always wanted people to be comfortable when I've done that with them, like doing a walkthrough, but still it's like, yeah, you don't really realize it.
You think about it. You go on a date with somebody, and let's say that this isn't going to get weird. Wait, okay. You go on a date with somebody, and let's say that you invite them to come to your house. Just to, hey, we'll go from there. Yeah. Like it's somebody that you have reached out to, or they have reached out to you, and you've accepted the invite.
Yeah.
If on that first entry they came and said, "Hey, I'm just going to duck into your bedroom and just see where you sleep," what would you say?
I would say a lot, but nothing I could say on here.
Great answer. Phenomenal answer. But like again, like it's one of those things that, so where I'm going, and let me tie this back into what we're talking about, is that you're in a situation where you're in front of a camera and you're feeling vulnerable. It is okay to share that with them, because that individual could be standing in somewhere that is an incredibly private transaction for somebody. Yep. And that's where I think that we have the permission to get a little bit more uncomfortable with our audience than most do, because of the nature of what we're trying to do for them, that in 80% of the cases, because the other 20% will be investment properties or whatever it is, but in 80% of the situation is a primary place of residence where it is such a personal experience. So I think that's where—
not to mention if you have, it's your home, that's personal, but the financial components to all of this, the family issues, brother and sister fighting over a house because mom died, like all these things are delicate, and people when they're going through them think I'm the only person in the world that could be in this shitty of a situation or could have let this happen, right? So in that regard, there's a ton of factors in this phase of or in this situation, it's buying and selling real estate, that someone could really benefit from you saying, hey, I'm going to meet you there. I've got stuff too. So I think that's a really great point, and one of the hardest things to do.
I think that there's a part of this as well, Brenna, where you and Cathy have done such a wonderful job of understanding that there is a network of people, that a referral is so powerful. And when I say referral, okay, it's a referral from another professional. It's not a referral from really another friend, really, because where I want to go with this and talking about just the personality of what we need to talk about on our content is that, let's say that I was in some financial trouble and I needed to sell my home. I would not go to you as a friend to get me a real estate agent, because then the real estate agent's going to probably tell you, that knows them, that I'm up shit creek without a paddle financially, because a lot of the stuff that we like that we know as realtors about people, they will hide from their closest friends.
Yeah. from the world.
And that's where I think that you guys are right on that edge of like that professional network rather than trying to smother people with friendship and whatever it is.
Yep. That's
You know
so
what I mean?
true. Yeah. Well, and I think also it's just if I were to, I mean, I have some friends, but like that network's not big enough. It's not big enough for the business I want to grow, even if all those people are huge Brenna and Cathy like stans, and they are telling anyone and everyone like that. I don't want to talk to one friend who's going to refer me to another friend in 2 years. I want to talk to the person who is dealing with a trust matter and has 5 properties that need to be unloaded tomorrow. Like that's who I want, right? And so, but also what comes with that is the professional who can say there is no one else to use besides these women, right? So I think it just depends on what you want. Those deals can be hairier; they can be a lot harder. But I mean, we've had the craziest deals in the world, but
but it's funny though. Like it's funny because Josh is dealing with a situation at the moment where he had a really good friend of his buy a home in Newport and didn't even know.
wow.
I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. But then found out later that he had to borrow money off somebody else and all this stuff. I'm like, that's exactly why you didn't get a phone call.
That's exactly it. Yep.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, it doesn't matter how far into the business you get, you will still look at that and be like, what? Like, why would you not reach out to me? But yeah, relying on that, it's such a good point. And I don't think people talk about it enough. People build business models off of friendship and their community. But they're not recognizing that the vulnerability of life events can be really like staggering effect on the amount of business you actually get from it.
Absolutely. Now, final part of this that I want to talk about is that typically people, when they build something, they build it to sell it. They build it to stop having to do as much of it. They do something in the build phase.
Yeah.
What's the end game with content? Like from a social media perspective, because it's just something that you have to live with as a constant in your life, really, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is the end game with it? What do we think about it? Where in 5 years' time, is the channel going strong? Are you still doing as much content? What does it look like? And again, it's okay to say I don't know, but
yeah, no, I think that's a good question. For me, I think the frequency with which we post will have to go down, or it will be completely outsourced to other people, so that I just show up and then I go about my day. But yeah, what I would ideally love is to be able to build a larger team of agents that work with us that can rely on not only our experience to help them grow, but also a generous amount of leads and business to work with through our Instagram and through our YouTube.
Right answer.
Whether it just be online or wherever, like I want to be able to have a plethora of business to share and to be able to take some of that transactional load off of us. Not entirely, just slightly.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because at the end of the day, I think that there's we dealt with some people that built a YouTube channel and they were just getting inbound buyers and they didn't want to do that anymore. Running buyers is a very different thing to running a listing, and they couldn't really build a team out of it and have had to just become and stay buyers agents because they just didn't know how to build that infrastructure out. But you know, the reality is that that's the nature of how you want to build a business, is that the quality of stuff coming in is based on the quality of your content as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, we've talked about this many a time, but no amount of business or money will ever be enough. And so this for me is, let's have so much, like, let's be drinking from a fire hose and later we'll figure out how to deal with it all. But I want such a massive amount that we never have to think about where our next deal is coming from. And then we'll build what we need to build to facilitate it.
Isn't it wonderful that, you know, a lot of people, I said this to Cathy the other day when I called you guys for being yet again in the top 10 for Harcourts in North America for the month, which I've called you guys every single month this year, by the way. And
Thank you.
So good year. But I think that the funny thing is, I said to Cathy, I'm like, I'm going to say this as a compliment, Cathy, because I think you and I are the same people, is that paranoia will get you and I out of bed in the morning.
Yep.
And I think that I speak for you as well, in the sense that I'm the same with that. I don't care if the fire hose was turned on. I might be able to take a breath for a minute, but it won't be forever.
Nope. Not at all. It's not permanent. Absolutely not. You can have little bits of it, little moments where you're like, wow, we did this recently where we really reflected on like, we got like 3 referrals in one day and we were like, a couple years ago, we were scrounging for every single deal. And it's not that we're working any less hard. It's just, it's nice to take a minute and look back. But again, we stand here and we're like, this isn't nearly enough. No, we need like way more than this. So I think it's part of who we are. And just like you said, like it's never going to change no matter how much money we make. But I would like we've always said we want to negotiate and we want to talk to people. We don't want to be doing any of the minutia or any of the crap that's around it. We want to do deals and we want to meet individuals. So that's kind of where the content hopefully will push us, is that we can do more of that and less of, the hunting.
Well, I guess that the benefit of doing this, Brenna, and wrapping up is the fact that now everybody knows that you've got to stay consistent. We're going to get everybody that actually ever listens to this to follow and subscribe to you guys, so that ultimately oh, hey, we don't really want to attract more real estate professionals.
Yeah.
But hey, by the way.
Give us a follow.
Yeah, give us a follow.
Well, at the very least, you can copy our content or whatever you need to do. But yeah, I mean, it's, we're happy to have anyone on the page that wants to be there.
Yeah, good disclaimer. Okay. All right. That's it. All right.
Thank you so much.
Now, I'll make sure that all of your links and everything are in the show notes below. So thank you again for sharing, because, again, I think that it's pretty vulnerable to go through the factor of what most people find so difficult is that I really do believe, and this is not the case with you guys because you were great well before the content and continue to be, but there are some really bad real estate agents that do a lot of business because they can do this part of the business.
Yep.
Right? And that is a real shame, because I think that they've got such public awareness. There's one guy locally who will remain completely nameless. He's not within our company. But again, I honestly believe he is atrocious when it comes to real estate, and would never even employ him to sell my dog house, let alone my real house. But he is a absolute star locally because of content.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that that's one thing about all of this, guys, is it doesn't, like, this can be something that really drives that part of the business. But congratulations on everything that you guys have achieved so far, and looking forward to continuing to monitor it into the future, hey?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being so out in the open with everything. I think people will really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.